So my name is Vitor de Chevy. I'm the Executive Director of New Direction. I will be speaking English. For those who need translation, of course, you can pick up a handset outside. Today it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our two first keynote speakers. But before doing so, I would like to say a few words about New Direction. Maybe you know that New Direction is the official political foundation of the conservative family. So the ECR party or the ECR group, we are based in Brussels. But although we are based in Brussels, we do think that having in mind our main goal to contribute and to participate to the debate on European integration, we do have to focus a bit more on the national level and local level. We do think that in Brussels, we need to make sure that we can bring back common sense from other capitals and other countries. And so for doing so, we do need also to work with local partners. And that's why today I'm very pleased to say that once again, we had a very successful partnership with SOC. I would like to say thank you to Robin, to Mate for the support and their help. Every time we work together, I do think that we achieve our main goal is to make sure that we focus on topics that maybe sometimes are not really at the top of the agenda in Brussels. We don't know that the crimes of communists is not a topic that is largely debated in Brussels, even though today I have some good news. They would like to have a commemoration for the crime of communists in Slovenia. It was a resolution adopted by the European Parliament, so we see that things are moving. Having said that, New Direction spent, I think, the last 5 years focusing on the extension of our network to make sure that we can find local partners everywhere. And we did so under the leadership of the former president of New Direction, Tomáš Poremba. He's with us today, so I would like to say thank you to Tomáš for that. But now we have a new momentum. It's a momentum where we can use this knowledge, this network, and we can also make sure that we can have an impact on the political agenda. And that's why I do think that our next speaker, Madame Lozo, is a perfect combination for us, and we are very pleased to have you at our board because you won for 2 different elections at least. You are quite visible. You know how important it is to work in political life, but still you are also a teacher. You are also spending a lot of time at the university, so you understand the match and the need to combine academic sector, but also, I should say, the fight at the political level. So, Madame Lozo, thank you very much for being with us today. The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. It is not that my speech would be too long, but just in case. So, welcome again today to this important today meeting. This year, Europe remarks the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. For the part of Europe, the end of the war brought liberty and the beginning of new democratic society. That part of Europe, Western Europe, loudly celebrates this anniversary and joyfully recalls the happiness of that distant May the 8th, 1945. Eastern and Central Europe stand aside a bit confused, wondering what is wrong, aware that not only can they not celebrate the end of the war, but that they are not fully understood from the rest of Europe. As if it has become established, Western Europe is celebrating, why don't celebrate you too? In this vicious circle of bitterness for half of the population of the European continent, the time has come for a full and true valorization of the dark period of communism in Eastern and Central Europe. It should be emphasized that the period under communist regimes lasted almost 50 years, during which people suffered injustices, lack of freedom of speech, denial of public functions, false accusations, confiscation of property, imprisonment torture and murders, cold-blooded liquidations. Eminent historians and politicians will speak more in detail about the victims and their sufferings during this two-day event. We cannot deny the formal recognition of all those crimes and the condemnation of communist totalitarian regimes by the European bodies. The declaration condemning communist crimes, to be mentioned, adopted by on the highest political level in Europe. But I dare to say here that there is a feeling that such a recognition is a bit more declarative than substantive. The most recent declaration condemning all totalitarian regimes unifies the sufferings of citizens under diverse regimes, thus diminishing in a way specific sufferings under communist regimes. The proof of this claim of mine is a selection of August 25 as a Remembrance Day for the victims of all totalitarian regimes. Among the former communist countries, there are differences as well. Some countries found the strength to implement lustration after the fall of the communist regimes, while others did not. Lustration prevented political and public activity for former communists. They could live and work in various jobs, but without public appearance. Today, 35 years after the introduction of lustration laws, there is no general satisfaction with the implemented measures, I must say. The effect has only been partly achieved for the most prominent names, communist names only. Numerous other like-minded people have successfully slipped through various socialist, liberal, or globalist parties and continue to influence political lives. On the other hand, countries that did not implement lustration, including Croatia, witnessed with an additional disappointment the continued infiltration of former communists into the new democratic society. In Croatia, a certain number of them simply left the Communist Party and joined the new pan-European political option, the Croatian Democratic Union, which won the first democratic elections and grew stronger in the conditions of the liberation war in Croatia in the 90s. On the other hand, the Communist Party, Yugoslav Communist Party, simply changed its name to the Social Democratic Party. And as the successor of the former Communist Party, it retained, among other things, the entire party infrastructure, including property, which still represents a significant source of financing as a prerequisite for the political presence. Of course, neither of those two groups had the slightest idea of strongly condemning communist crimes or advocating for the implementation of lustration, because they would expose themselves in the first place. This entailed and still entails the absence of dealing with communist repression, nor willingness to compensate the victims of this repression. Communist politicians who continued their careers in the democratic state still shamelessly diminish the victims of Croats during the communist regime in Yugoslavia. As a consequence, to this day, not a single crime committed during the communist regime from 1945 till 1990 has been prosecuted in Croatia. The political situation in Croatia becomes even more complex since communist forces in Croatia are extremely anti-Croatian and are at the same time pro-Yugoslav orientated. They even openly and publicly condemn any Croatian patriotism. Their actions are sometimes explicit, sometimes subtle, but in a certain way they work on the rehabilitation of former Yugoslavia. That is my statement. Former communists and pro-Yugoslav politicians manage the educational system. They dominate the media. They have taken over the cultural sphere, and absurdly, they are financed from the state budget. This situation furtherly insult and humiliate Croatian patriots, especially the victims of the liberation war from the 90s. The best example of their perfidious cloaking is of all former communists, partisans, and Yugoslavs under the umbrella of the expression or the term anti-fascists, a very successful trick. They have therefore developed the thesis according to which anyone who is not an anti-fascist is what? An anti-fascist, which of course is not true. Therefore, I welcome every sovereign effort by Croatian politicians, and my party as well, to shed light on the crimes committed and to give the recognition to innocent victims. I welcome the idea of opening the Museum of Victims of Communism. Furthermore, I believe that the adoption of the new declaration by the Croatian State Parliament condemning the crimes of Josip Broz Tito would bring multiple benefits, since it is far too late to implement lustration laws in Croatia nowadays. Such a declaration could result in laws banning the glorification of Tito. Streets and squares would no longer be named after him. The truth could come out in its entirety, and the victims and their descendants would receive the satisfaction they deserve. Finally, I dare to say that on May the 8th, the celebratory mood that dominates the Europe is caused by the fact that most influential countries in Western Europe have not experienced a communist regimes themselves. The proof of my claim is the celebration of the end of the World War II itself. And only by the strengthening the influence of other European countries can this imbalance be brought to balance. Hoping that new, young generations will not allow the decline of democracy, I warmly greet you today, and I declare this event open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madame Lozo, for this opening speech. Also, I think it's important to mention that a few weeks ago you were in Brussels, where you hosted an exhibition and an event together with Mr. Batulica. You might know that Mr. Bartulica, since he's a member of the European Parliament, he's not free anymore to choose where he can be, and this week he has to be in Strasbourg, but however, he asked me to send you his regards.